Alrighty, here we are at exercise number 2 on the Triad Exercises sheet for WSU small groups. This is a theory factoid, right? This is the 5 basic triads of music. This is like the 5 primary colors, you know. These are our 5 basic colors that we could make songs or music with. There are 2 major chords, major and augmented. There are 2 minor, minor and diminished. And there's 1 stuck in the middle that's really not much of anything. And that is suspended. What we're going to need to do is go through the theory of it, memorize the theory of it, and then take our triad shapes and alter them until they become these other chords. I'm only going to go through with the root inversion chords just so we can all follow together, but you need to go through and do first inversion and second version as well. Starting in major town, right? Here is major town, happy 1, 3, 5. And this is our first type of triad, right? This is our first basic color of music. Right, it's a nice sound. 1, 3, 5, root inversion. The next major sound is augmented. Augmented is where we take the 5 and raise it. Augmented means to add to, all right? And I think sharpening is more synonymous with adding than flatting, you know? If I sharpen something, that it gets pointier, right? You know, it goes up. So in my mind, at least, that makes sense for augmented to mean a major chord that we've added to, i.e. we have sharpened the 5th. Why the 5th? Well, if we change the root, it's a different chord. We haven't changed anything, we've just moved to a different chord. If we change the 3rd, it's no longer major. Remember, the only difference between major and minor, we can see it here on the diagram, is that the only difference is the flat 3rd in minor. So, what have we got left to play with? Well, we've really only got the option of the 5th. We can raise it. I mean, I suppose we could lower it, but then it's a flat 5 chord. It's not one of the primary triads. Okay, so we take major. And to make it augmented, we move the 5 up 1 fret. Alright, it's very, very bright as a chord. It's a lovely major chord, so it still is happy, but provides us with just enough dissonance, just enough of a rub to make something interesting. Usually when we use this chord, this note has to go somewhere. Alright? Now that could be used in a vamp like this. And we'll hear that a lot in musicals, things like Chicago, you know, that kind of era. Another thing we might use it for is introducing a tension to resolve to another chord. Right, and there it sounded really cool. That was an interesting way of making a 1 to 4 change. Kind of a bit spicier. Okay, I'm going carried away. Okay, so that's major and augmented. Then we would have minor, so let's take a major chord. To make something minor, we find the 3rd, so in this instance it's the middle note. And we move it down 1 fret. Minor, nice minor. Nice sad minor. Alright, C minor. Now we could make it C diminished. Now diminished means to make something smaller, to knock it down. So in my mind, that's synonymous with flattening. So we can't move the root. If we move the root, we just change chords. If we move the 3 again, then we're no longer in minor territory. So the only thing we've got left to play with is the 5. So if we take the 5 and we flatten it. Alright, there's our diminished chord. Very, very, very dramatic chord sound. Tends to make me think of silent films. You know, the heroine is tied to the tracks and you know, the mustachioed villain is twirling his mustache. Okay. Last but not least, the suspended chords. Suspended chords take a chord and they take the 3 out and replace it with either the 2 of the scale or the 4 of the scale. And that leaves things feeling somewhat ambiguous. Here is suspended 2. We've taken the 3, and we're going to move it down a tone. to get to the 2 of the scale. It's a great sound. It's very vacant. I think it sounds open and clear, but definitely not happy or sad. It might be melancholic. I suppose it depends on how you feel about openness. So here's sus2. That's where we take the 3 and we move it down to the 2, and we replace the 3 entirely. Okay, so then we'll take sus4. We take the 3 and we move it up a semitone to get to the 4th note of the scale. A little brighter. Both share that same sense of vacancy, that same sense of openness to them. Okay, so now we've covered major, augmented, suspended, sus2, sus4, and minor and diminished. And they're your 5 basic flavors. For now, you just need to be aware of them. You need to know how to make them. You need to make them in all of your positions, right? Make different chords with all of your different inversions, and get familiar with them. Later on, they're going to become much more valuable. We're going to use them in songs, but for now, it's just introduction to the concept. Okay,